Alright guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We're doing the second installment on the Gitano Acoustic guitar. We're going to pick it up right where we left off. Let's get to work. So, yeah, I got the guitar all cleaned up. Refer to the first video. Cleaned up, we did a lot of work on the other side. I gave you the backstory on the guitar. We're getting ready to put the tuners back in, and I've already taken the time to put the 3 over here, 3 over there. On a 3 and 3 configuration, they can only go one way, 3 on this side, 3 on that side. I'm going to take a little bit of time to, whenever you get these kind of tuners where the tuner goes through and then you have a nut bushing where it goes through the other side and screws into it, take a little care to put just a slight little dollop of grease on the threads. It will work its way around. Just one little dollop, that's all it takes. It will work its way around, and you will thank me if you ever have to take these out. I'm not kidding. Sometimes they break and they get in there, and you know, it can be a problem. This will not attract dust because it's inside the mechanism. So one little tiny dollop, just like that. All right. You put them through the back side first and put your screw in. And yeah, it's okay to tighten it up. By the way, I, of course, took the time to clean up all the tuning machines and pegs as best I could. The tuning pegs have a lot of corrosion on them. Yeah, I could have gone a lot farther. These are actually pretty decent tuning machines, but pitting will happen. I don't care how good your guitar is. Pitting will happen, and you can't get it all off, but trust me, they're standing tall. They are standing tall. Get your screws in. This is the back of the headstock, obviously. You can see that. This screw, all it does is hold the tuning machine from spinning when you tighten up the other side. You want them snug. You're not putting together a Harley Davidson. You don't have to torque them. These 3 right here have a dollop of grease on them, which is the G, B, and high E. Those are the ones we're going to put in first. Take care. The washer only goes one way. Put it in there. Start it. That little dollop of lube will work its way around there, and it's kind of an anti-seize, but it also protects the threads. If there's stuff in the threads that I couldn't get out, it'll keep it from galling. It won't cross thread. I've never seen them cross thread, but it'll keep them from galling out the threads. Right? Those 3 are in that. They're not tight yet. And we're going to do the E, A, and D. And again, just the slightest little dollop. You don't need to spread it around. You can if you want. Can if you want, but it's not necessary. And don't get overzealous with the lube. It's not necessary, right? your other set of tuners back in. I don't care what kind of guitar you have. This is pretty straightforward. I mean, most tuners are, yeah, they're pretty standard. They might be of higher or lower quality, but they're all pretty standard. They're all pretty basic. You know, if you want to get into taking them apart and repairing them, that's a different ballgame. I've done that before too. When you get a 65 Epiphone Riviera 12-string on your bench and they want it restored and they don't want any of the machinery to be changed, yeah, you better learn how to take that stuff apart and put it back together and make it work like brand new again. You follow? But for today's exercise, this guitar is going to be standing tall here very shortly. I got one tuner that the peg itself, the string peg that was sticking up through, not the tuning peg, but the machine peg that was sticking up through, was a little bit looser than all the rest. If that one doesn't cooperate, it may be finding its way into the trash bin and being replaced, but we'll address that as it comes. 10 millimeter. Dropped my hammer. I apologize. Does not need to be super tight, needs to be snug. That was our problem child right there. But it seems to be okay. It's the A tuning peg. We'll find out shortly. They don't need to be super, super, super tight. They need to be snug. There's a difference. Snug is not torqued. So, everything's back together. Line up all your peg holes so that they're facing, these three are going to face this way. These three are going to face this way. So when we restring it, everything's pointed in the right direction. Beauty. We have our strings here. They are run-of-the-mill D'Addario bronze. Nothing special. 53 to 12. Yeah, you can choose whatever string you want. It doesn't matter. These are going to sound very nice on this guitar. We have no idea what the setup is going to bring us with this guitar. Saddle goes in. Make sure it's, I don't think it's the right saddle for it, but it's a little, I wonder, is there a, I forgot to check, or I didn't think to check if there was a shim underneath, and there sure enough is, or that's the shim. Well, I can tell you I'm taking the shim out. This is our pickup right here. That's our pickup. And there was a shim on top of it. Now I don't know why there would be, and it's a pretty thick one. Now, when we first got this guitar, we don't know what the setup is going to be like on it. And the reason being that it was kind of in the condition that it was in. Generally speaking, that should not need a shim on top of the pickup. And if you're going to put a shim, it should be underneath. I'm taking the shim out. I'm going to take a leap of faith and string it up without that shim, because my experience tells me that when this guitar has no string tension on it, and when I sight down the neck, it's in a back bow. So even with string tension on it, it's probably only going to be flat once we string it up. And if I need to either lower the action or raise the action, we can always put the shim back in to raise the action, or we can add a little bit of relief to make the action higher. But we'll address that as it comes. And I'm not a firm believer in adjusting action with the truss rod, but on an acoustic, sometimes that's one of the only alternatives that you have. That and shaving that down, or if you need to raise the action, put a shim in there. There's got to be a reason why there was a shim in there. We're going to find out. We're going to find out together. Get your ball so the hole is going this way. Put just the slightest bend in it. Get your bridge pin with the slot to get right on that ball so that that bend grabs the bottom of the bridge pin. Right? Gentle tug. String's going to live here. Go to the next peg. Bend it. Stop at the bend. Let her go. The first wrap, not to make myself sound like I'm a broken record, but the first wrap goes above the string hole. All the other wraps go below. Make sure your bridge pin is not popping out. Get it up to tension. Well, this is setup time. Yeah, I can already see that I don't like the way that E string is sitting in the nut slot, and we're definitely going to have a high first fret action. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Leave a little extra, bend it down. I'm going to pause while I put the rest of the strings on it, and we will tune it up and move on to the next step. Stand by. So we got it all strung up. I left some extra strings just in case I need to take them off. I don't know where we're going to be as far as string height and action and neck relief. So I left a little extra string just in case I need to take them off and restring it. I might need to add a shim. I might need to cut the saddle down, and I'd like to have some extra strings. So tune it up. That's pretty good. Well, yeah, it's a player again. And, well, we don't know where the string action is. I can tell you that it does have a radius. I did not think to check that. I can see it. It's so obvious. Usually an acoustic will be considerably flatter than a regular guitar, but that doesn't matter. What we want to check as we always do. Where is my capo? There we go. It's got quite a bit of action on it. I can see it, but I don't know where it is until I measure it. And the same rules apply. I had a comment the other day about how straight an acoustic guitar should be, and yeah, that's a little too straight. And oh yeah, straight, it should be perfectly straight. Well, on an acoustic, the answer is yes and no. Back bow or too straight is bad. There should always be some relief. Now, I'm going to qualify that with the fact that if we're definitely straight as an arrow. If you're not getting any first fret buzzing, then okay, yeah, you could probably live with it. But I can tell you, there is literally no first fret action. It is a mile away. That's 20 thousandths of an inch. It's not even touching. All right. So the nut needs to be cut down, and I knew that when I was looking at it as I was stringing it. I knew that we had an issue there. But it seems to be playing and holding, but it sounds a little out. So here's how you check that. Your open E is dead on. Yeah, your G is way sharp. You see it right there? And you're getting some buzzing. That means the neck is too straight. Your first fret action is too tall. So that needs to be addressed, and that needs to be addressed. Where is our string height? And once all of that is done, then you can really start to worry about string height. But I'm kind of curious where it is right now. And this is all, that might be why that shim was in there, because it buzzes on the, see, right now it's at just below 7 and right at 5. I would consider that perfectly acceptable, but I can tell you why it's buzzing, because the first fret action is wrong, and it's way off as far as intonation goes, and all of that is adjustment that needs to be made here, and the intonation. It's a little sharp, and even that high string height here can affect that, because as you push down on that string, you're pulling it out of tune. I'm going to cut the nut slots, and then we're going to, I can adjust I can make this play fine so it doesn't buzz and hand it back. That it's not a customer's guitar. This is a family heirloom, as we've discussed a couple of times already. Somebody put a shim in there to address those issues and go, oh, they'll never play down here. They're only going to be playing cowboy chords now. This guitar needs to be set up to play correctly. The string action is right, and that's really the only thing at this moment. Truss rod needs to be lowered. Probably going to end up having to cut the saddle, but before we do that, we have to get our first fret action correct. Yeah. So that's where we're at with this guitar. I'm not going to bore you with all that stuff, but I can promise you it's going to happen. The next thing on this guitar is going to be cutting the nut slots, get the first fret action where it is supposed to be. Then you can set your neck relief and your string height, just like any other guitar. And the string height on this one could either be adding the shim back in, which somebody did incorrectly, or shaving the saddle down. And we won't know that until we get the first fret action right. Then we'll go from there. So, Blackjack with 396 guitars. The heirloom family heirloom guitar is well on its way to playing correctly. It actually plays pretty decently now, but we need to finish it. Can't do it all in a 20-minute video. We'll talk soon.